Hi, welcome back to the Sports Desk. Just left the yard in our last segment. Now we run over to a different field, track and field. In baseball, softball, volleyball, preseason tourneys get squads geared up for league competition, while on the track, the dual meets that match up Bay League teams against Bay League teams and Pioneer League schools against Pioneer League schools, while they're all important, are really just warm-ups for athletes' showdowns with the fastest sprinters, distance runners, and everybody else from all over the Southland. Spending a day at the track is like having a front row seat to see the definition of controlled chaos in person. There's races, more athletes in one place than you can keep track of. Did I mention there's races?
Hey, the dual meet's a lot more exciting for the team. One of the beautiful things about it is we don't have to worry about time. We're running for first, second, and third place. So there's strategy involved. It's one school versus another. We kind of know the kids from over the years, so it's really exciting.
When things get even more packed here at West High for this month's South Bay Championships, athletes will compete in their specialized events.
It brings all the best competition in the area to find out who is the best individual and who is the best team in all of the South Bay, from Santa Monica to San Pedro to everywhere, Beverly Hills, you name it. All the Torrance schools, Redondo, Costa, PV, Peninsula. It's a really good event.
But in dual meets like this one against Bay League competition PV Penn, it's time to get a little uncomfortable.
This time of the year, I still don't know what some of these kids, we have 250 kids out here, so I'm still trying to find out what event they're the best at. I just want to make sure they're ready to compete, they come out ready, and they fight to the end, they don't give up. That's it, show true warrior pride.
And for the girls of this year's 4x100, it's time to iron out the kinks before the best of the best come to Torrance.
This year we have each individual very, very fast girls. Today we didn't do really well. We needed to work on our passes and handoffs, but overall if we just work on that, we'll be set.
Well, we get our times, we try to break our PRs and finding the events that we do best in. Because the big meets are coming up, so we want to get used to our events. Because here we're only racing against one other school, so it's not much competition. But for the big meets, we have a lot of schools, and they're very fast.
Just watching everybody and learning how people are running, I think we're going to do well. There's a lot of fast people out here.
Good times out in the sun that day. So your chance to see West host other Torrance schools and the rest of the South Bay is right around the corner. April 18th and 19th, right here in Torrance. West High Track, and there's even word of a special sponsor coming to town for the South Bay's championships. So to find out who, well, you'll just have to join us there. Now jumping back into some scores and updates for you guys, we've spent a lot of time talking about the El Camino Warriors' solid season so far on the baseball diamond. Things cooling off a bit last week when they took on South Coast Conference leaders, East LA. We've heard all season long pitching and defense is their bread and butter. Well, they took most of the week off apparently, giving up 17 runs in the first 2 of their 3-game series. That dropped them from tied in first place with East LA down to 3rd place in the SCC. Took just 3 days. In Game 2, Elko pitching allowed 13 walks and hit 2 batters. They do avoid the sweep though when things got back on track over the weekend. A close 4-2 W on the road has them sitting just a game back now in the win-loss column. The volleyball team though, still doing their thing. The Warriors put down Santa Barbara City College in 4 behind Roy Powell's 17 kills. Nick Williamson sprinkled in 49 assists, and just like that, the Warriors are a game away from clinching their first ever conference title. They'll have that opportunity at home this week, hosting LA Trade Tech. Okay, quick updates for you there. When we come back, we've got one more story on the day. Pay it forward, that's what we're learning here after the break.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
The great outside.
We both love the outdoors.
It's so shiny.
That's not a flower. We both love geology.
Oh, look. An igneous one.
That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Hi, welcome back to the Sports Desk. Next up, we're going to introduce you to a very special person right here in Torrance. He's a scratch golfer. He's wrestled with Olympic champions, even starred in a credit card commercial once. He's pretty much the South Bay's version of the most interesting man in the world. But of all the books Yuki Matsumoto could fill with his stories, he might be writing his favorite one yet. This is the one where he teaches us it's never too late to pursue your passion.
I just think that when this is happening to me at this age, it really lifts me up. I got probably more out of this, especially when the kid comes up to me and says, Coach Yuki, and I look at him, I said, my goodness, he's calling me Coach.
Yukio Matsumoto doesn't move like an 83-year-old, but he certainly has 83 years worth of great stories, which is why on a given afternoon in the West High freshman wrestling room, you'll find him with the Warriors' next batch of CIF contenders, mastering holds just like he did 60 years ago.
When I see this in the children, spending the time doing something constructive like this versus, doing something that's a waste of time, I'm sure glad that we have this. I feel that wrestling is one of the finest athletic events, but it builds character most of all.
As a freshman at the University of Illinois, Yuki, not quite Coach Yuki yet, wasn't even a fan of wrestling. When he lost an impromptu match to the team's water boy, he fell in love with the sport, and by 1954 was the Fighting Illini's team captain.
I had to teach a lot of the freshmen coming into our school when I was graduating. But I found that the freshman here is a little bit shy, to say the least. And of course, with the girls, they don't even talk to the girls. I feel more privileged to teach these kids because I learn more about young boys growing up, because they're going to have a lot of influences by senior year. I want them to be good citizens, but most of all, naturally, I'm biased, I want them to be good wrestlers.
As a volunteer, Yuki doesn't get paid to work with West High's underclassmen wrestlers. He says getting paid would take half the fun out of it. So, he comes to practice early and leaves late. No cursing or yelling aloud. Just wrestle. And follow 3 simple rules.
Number 1, you've got to know your holds. And number 2, you've got to work out and get your endurance, conditioning, much more than anybody else. And third, you must have this. When you're ready to give up, you keep going.
Huge thanks to Mr. Matsumoto for spending an afternoon with us and sharing some great stories. I promise he has plenty more. Aside from teaching the younger wrestlers at West, Yuki also assists with the Thunder Wrestling program coming up this summer. He'll be teaching the same techniques and lessons he has for his 9th graders to even younger wrestlers all summer long. You can get your tiny grappler going by checking out torranceca.gov, and while you're there, it's the same place you can find more info about this show. How convenient. If you ever want to email us or even tell us about other great youth programs, maybe you know of another person in Torrance who's paying it forward, just like Coach Yuki, you always know where to find us and share that story. All right, everybody, that wraps up another one right here on the Sports Desk. Can't wait to see you all next week.